All right. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Algonac Board of Education at 7 p.m. Please rise for pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Heather Arneal Roberts.
Here.
Charles Busatell.
Here.
Heidi Campbell.
Here.
Ray Privilov.
Present.
Janice Pasco. Phil Clark.
Here.
Sharon Stiltner here. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Recognitions and presentations.
Yeah. Kevin Miller, as you all can see, is here today to join us. And Kevin has made it a point since he's been the superintendent over at RISA to make sure that either he gets out or, and when he's double booked, sometime he'll send somebody from the business office out. Tracy Recor, if you recall, came down last year to present the budget. But this is helpful because Kevin will give you the information, and I know that the board understands the things that the RISA has done for us, and particularly the relationship in the last couple of years that we've had. From the deal that we get on payroll and benefits to the, we have a literacy coach that comes out provided by the RISA that spends 2 days we split with Memphis with, and just a lot of various things that we've asked for. And even next year, for an example, we have extremely high population of autistic students at Millside. Something that I came and talked to Kevin about. He said, let me come down or let me get special ed people down there so we can figure out a plan going forward. They've been down several times this year. We've got a plan that we feel pretty good about in place, but a lot of support from the RISA on that. So really appreciate you coming down tonight, Kevin, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, and I just, so you know too, and Al hasn't paid me to say this, we have a great relationship, and Al, right away, when he got the job, called, and very gracious, and we just have had a wonderful relation since, and really appreciate that. And so, and I don't say this just to be trite, anything we can do to help, that's our role as an educational service agency. I'm going to do a flyover 10,000 foot view, very, very short amount of time. Any questions you have tonight, or if you think of anything later, I'll give you my cell. You can call me at work, call my cell, either way, or email me, whichever you like. So as you know, we have 3 separate budgets, and you probably received these, but we have the general fund budget, which is the kind of vanilla cover, and then the yellow is our special ed, and our blue is career technical education, or our VOCAD, as a lot of people used to know it. One of the things I tell people is we can't mix the 3 budgets. I'd like to sometimes, as we have more money in one budget than the other, but I can't mix funds from the 3 budgets, so that can't happen. But in the general fund, the revenue, if you took a close look at it, you would have noticed that it's down about $866,000. Generally, those are grants. A lot of our programs at RISA are grant funded. So that 866, about 750 of it is funding of grants that ended. There's a parent cafe grant, a trusted advisor grant, a family engagement grant, and a children's trust fund grant that all ended. So all those kind of add up. So as you might expect then, our spending is down by about that same amount. When you don't get the grant funds, then you don't provide those services that the grant would have provided. So we've obviously, the budget is about $750,000 lower too. I want to point out, and I think Tracy might have said this last year, but this is my 3rd year now as superintendent, and we're down about $500,000 in spending administratively. So I'm really proud of the fact that when I took the job as superintendent, I didn't replace my position administratively, also as secretary, and then since the second administrator left, and we didn't replace that administrator, so we're down about $500,000, which all goes back into the school districts as far as helping some of the things that Al mentioned in his conversation prior to my speaking. Special ed budget it's almost scary. This is within $10,000 of last year's budget, which is highly unusual. Generally, there's grants or something that makes it radically different, but it's about the same as last year within $10,000. We have if you haven't read about it in the paper, or the Times Herald had a nice story on it. I think the Voice has also run an article on it too. we have changed the title of our, what was used to be called the transition program. It's called, we moved it also and renamed it the STEP program. It's also moved to St. Clair County Community College campus. These are 18 to 25-year-olds that haven't gotten a diploma from a high school. They've got a certificate of completion. They're high-functioning special needs students, and so our role in that program is to get them into the workplace and get them into a life-changing experience for themselves. And so two reasons for moving it to SC4. One, that's their peer group, age-wise. Two, it's right across the street from the Blue Water Transportation. And one of the things we teach them is to use public transportation to be able to get to their job. So we're really proud of that program that's been underway now. This will be the third year of that program, but the first year at the SC4 campus. And last year, Public Act 18 payouts to the local districts, we raised those by $500,000. I don't know the exact number that Algonac benefited from that, but there was more money that was coming that way. And then finally, a flyover of the career and technical education budget revenue is up about $170,000. Nearly all of that is a program that I'm really proud of that we started 2 years ago called the Technical Middle College Program. These are students that are already in 6 approved programs at St. Clair Tech. They now can stay for a 13th year and get up to an associate's degree at no cost to the district. We don't take any foundation allowance from the district. We also let the district keep the 3rd year foundation allowance for students that are in those programs. And so next year we anticipate having over 150 students already in that program at St. Clair Tech and at St. Clair County Community College. Wow. And then you may know we've had 2 programs added in the last 3 years. Construction trades and computer science have been added. And so hot off the press, we did the slot selection at Tech. We are the largest percentage of high school students in history at St. Clair Tech. Nearly 13% of high school students attend St. Clair County Tech. And I'm real proud of that. And we're looking at 2 additional programs, cybersecurity and energy program. I pushed the button last week on a grant with the state called a Marshall Plan grant. If we get that, we will start in conjunction with consumers and DTE Energy, an energy program at Tech to prepare the next slate of energy workers. So one of the things we're trying to do is keep well ahead of the game on hot jobs that are out there and the programs that we have that lead to really high demand jobs in the field. So that's my really quick flyover review, and I'm happy to entertain any questions or comments from you while I'm here.
Not necessarily the budget, Kevin, but where do you see RISA 3 years, 5 years from now? What do you see happening in the services?
Yeah, so one of the things that we really do, and I think we have a group of superintendents now, and Al included, that really help drive the conversation. And one of those conversations that he alluded to, the students that you're going to have at Millside, I think you said, Al, we've got some severe behavior incidents around the county and other school districts. And so the superintendents have actually driven this conversation, and we're listening. And so then we come up with a solution that all of the superintendents and districts agree on that's collaborative. And I think that's the big thing, is listening to what the districts are asking for and then responding. So that's the key. And I think from a tech standpoint, and I alluded to this, is that I think we need to anticipate what's going to be out there and the programs that are maybe needed for areas that we know 4 and 5 and 6 years out that are going to have hot jobs. We need to be able to supply programs like that. So we have 681 students, by the way, at Tech. Every program's full. We have a waiting list of 257 kids. Wow. So there's obviously a need. So where I'd like to go is to see programs. Obviously, we have to have funding to supply those, but we're really lobbying Lansing for additional career and technical education money, because there's obviously a huge need for the hands-on learning opportunities that we offer. So those would be the 2 things that I would say long-term.
Thank you.
How many of our Algonac kids actually go to Tech?
Slot availability now?
I mean, it's
Tech.
I mean, I don't have the number in front of me, I said, but we take up all our slots. In fact, we usually end up taking more slots from schools that don't use them. So it's a good chunk of our students.
Yeah. Last year, I think we ended up picking up 10 slots from some programs
Algonac
that
has
were
done
up
a
there.
great job of that. Credit to that they bring kids on a waiting list too, and then where slots are not used, Algonac's picked up a bunch of those.
We've been pretty lucky with that, yeah.
We have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Like I said, if you have any additional questions, either get them through Al or to me directly, I'm happy to answer. Be as transparent as we possibly can on what's happening and what we provide, so thank you for having me.
Appreciate all you do,
Thank you.
Kevin. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
have a great evening.
Yep,
Thank
two.
you.
All right, consent agenda items.
Make a motion that the Board of Education approves all consent agenda items, including agenda, minutes, personnel items, treasurer's report, and bills as listed items A through C.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any conversation? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. And now, food service contract?
Yep. Steve, maybe I'll call you in on a little bit with the school meals price increase as well, but food service contract, so we are in a 5-year contract with Chartwell's currently, but it is voted on and brought up every year for renewal. And we do that for 5 consecutive years, and then it will go out for bid again when the 5 years is up, and that's when we'll solicit bids from anybody who's out there bidding. So this year, next month, it'll be on as just an action item, and it's based on 15, 16, I think we go back to.
Yes,
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
right here,
last
okay.
year of year
This is
four.
year 4?
Yep.
This is year 5.
Oh, year
coming up
5.
in 1920.
Yep. So we'll be out for
4, right?
This is your fourth.
yeah,
This is
15,
year 4, but I mean, this contract that you're gonna approve would be year 5. for
19, 20. Yep.
Okay.
Steve, anything else on that? On the contract at all? Anything?
Just this, this renewal of the
Yep.
4th year, for the 1 year, and then next year goes into, like you said, rebidding.
School meals price increase.
We haven't done one in 3 years. As we go by the state, I do a plea to see what's going on around the counties, the other districts around us, surrounding districts. And where the state's telling us to be, we need to be at a certain point break of, within that realm. And when we do that 25-cent increments, that covers us for like 2 or 3 years. Because then we're not doing the community nickel and dime every year. We went up in nickel every year, the community start getting upset about it. But if you do 25 cents, that covers us 2 to 3 years. Plus with the increase of food that's going up, and of course, that's what's really hurting us if we don't.
So in
That's what the state recommends us.
terms of price increase beyond this, we probably won't see one for a few years then for,
Exactly.
okay,
So we would never come back again for, 2, 3 years, depending on where we're at.
okay.
Dorothy and I will review it in 2 years, and then if we see we need to, then we do. If we don't, then we won't.
So
It's
is,
mandatory by the state.
Yep.
It's
It
mandated.
has to be done.
okay. And this is the second increase in this current contract, right? The first one was 2016? Was that the same contract?
Yeah.
Or was that last year?
No, I think it was 16 was our last increase.
16, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Questions?
I'm gonna say it now. I still don't like that 2% administration add-on every year. I know the state allows you to do it, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And you do it every year. So,
Yeah.
I'm making my point.
Anything else?
All right. Administrative reports?
Yep. Mr. Melrose?
We're getting to the end of the year here, it comes fast. Just some of the things, over the past couple of weeks, we had, 2 weeks ago, we had our final choir concert, middle school and high school, and Ms. Turner did an excellent job. Kids did just a phenomenal job. It was a really good program. We had our high school band concert last week, which again was very nice. One of the other things that I can't speak highly enough of is Miss Flanagan's her art festival that she runs and she has and she puts in her room. And if you haven't had a chance to see some of the work that she has these kids produce, it really is amazing. Since she's taken over that art program, it really has revamped what they do in there, and she stays on top of it. And some of the things you see these kids do, you would never imagine that they'd be able to do that. But
Yep,
she's a phenomenal teacher, and just looking at just, I think we have, for being a smaller school, we have a very strong arts program, and kids they're doing some really nice stuff. Last week, we had our 6th grade orientation. Kids came over Friday on the bus there, and they get a tour of the building. They get, again, their favorite thing is getting to eat in the cafeteria, getting to eat high school food. There's something magical about our food. Seems to be better than what they have at the elementary. They always say, whether that's true or not, or whatever, it's just a different menu, but they love it. So, again, we always love having the 6th graders over here. And then this is the first year where actually we had the 8th grade students. We usually have the high school students that lead the groups. Well, we had a bunch of 8th grade students that they asked, well, you know, Mr. Melrose, we're kind of closer to where they came over here, and we really want to have the opportunity to do this. And so we had a group of those 8th graders that were actually in the lead on organizing the groups and the program, and they did a phenomenal job. And so it was nice to see some of the leadership from the younger students take over there. Just some of the other things we have coming up here. We have this Wednesday, we have our 8th graders that go up to SC4. Which again, this is a really good program. A lot of these students have never been on a college campus before, and it's really eye-opening to some of the things that are offered to them and up at SE4. So it's always a really good trip for those kids to see. June 4th, we have our middle school Metro Beach trip for the 7th and 8th graders. June 7th is our senior awards and graduation, and June 10th is our 8th grade honors. So we're getting there. Getting close.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Brooke's out ill, made it to school this morning, but been sick all weekend, and so we sent her home around noon today. But I think, Melissa, she handed you some stuff?
Yes,
Perfect.
she sure did. So, Algonquin wanted to report that they had an MSTEP representative stop out and visit at the end of April. He commented on the great behavior of the 5th grade students. He had no immediate action for changes. However, a week later, they received the rubric. They scored well, except a few minor suggestions for next year. So that went well.
That was the one that I shared with
Yeah,
you guys there, yep.
Algonquin's Leadership Day was a success. Brooks says that over 20 community partners were on hand to hand out resources to the 150 parents that attended. They were able to celebrate the volunteers and enjoy barbecue lunch that day. It was a big day at Algonquin that day if you were able to join. Tomorrow is their Lighthouse Review from Leader and Me. They're excited to get feedback on their progress. And 6th grade recognition will take place at Algonquin on June 10th at 2 p.m. in the auditorium. You'll be receiving a formal invite shortly. So that's what Brooke had to report on. At Millside, we had our Lighthouse Review last week. The Leader and Me group came out. A couple of gentlemen from Florida came out. They had wonderful things to say. Everything went really well. The kids were adorable as usual, so they did a great job. We'll find out, they said anywhere 2 to 4 weeks how we did, and we'll bring that to you formally. They also hosted their Leadership Day on May 10th. It always amazes me how many parents, grandparents, friends, and family show up for that day. Kids are very proud. We have great turnout within our schools for parents coming out and seeing things. Kindergarten concert was last week. It's always cute and adorable. They do all kinds of things on stage, but auditorium was packed. And we had our Buddy Bench celebration. The kids in the Lighthouse team had raised money and collected plastic bottles. And they were able to secure 2 Buddy Benches and 1 on each side, on each playground. We had a dedication to Joe and Carter on the main playground side. His mom and brother and grandma came out. It was a very nice day. So if you get a chance, stop by Millside and check those out.
Nice article in the Times Herald on that too as well. I thought they did a nice job.
Yeah, Kim
covering
Carter
that.
actually called the Times Herald and
Yep.
wanted them to come out. So it was on her terms and it was very
Yep.
nice. that she came out and did that, so. Testing's currently going on at Millside and Algonquin, our end of the year testing. So we have FWEA going on, plus our DRA2 reading assessments. So we're gathering all that end of the year information so we can evaluate our programs and see how everything went academically throughout the year. So it's a busy time.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
Susan Stringer also out sick today, so she called me this morning and said that she would come back and report to us in June, but they're getting ready. I know they're getting ready for their summer programs over at Point Trumbull, and so she's been pretty busy as well.
Any board reports?
I attended the St. Clair County Board meeting, my first one. on Tuesday last week, and I was kind of shocked that not very many districts send representatives out for that.
No?
Marysville doesn't send one, and they're right there. China didn't send anyone either. But we discussed, they offer a scholarship, and it goes to each of the high schools in the county. And it's a $600 scholarship to seniors that are going into education. And we voted, actually, we're gonna change that because they can't even get enough kids to even apply for the scholarships. And they were kind of told, well, it's because it's only for $600. It's because it's only because it's for people going into education. So we changed it. There's only gonna be 3 scholarships. They'll be for $1,500, and it'll be open to any student, you know, going on to secondary, you know, even like any education, like whatever they want to go
Yeah.
into, even tech programs. And then we'll vote on that. We have our own committee now where before the high schools picked their representative from each school. It kind of amazed me that they really couldn't get, they would call the schools,
Yeah.
still don't have anybody, you still don't have anybody. And we discussed that, and then Kevin and I got to spend like about an hour with him, and he's pretty passionate about what he's doing over there.
Yep.
Talked about a lot of things that he has coming up and ideas and,
Well, you could hear it just now.
oh yeah, but I mean, yeah, spend an hour with him. It was-
I got to tell you, and Sharon, you probably would be able to attest to this, but having worked with the RISA for as many years as I have in this district, I've never felt better about what they're doing with the locals, just in terms of when he talks about wanting to help, he truly is, and he's funneling money back to the districts because he knows where they're going to get their best bang for their buck. And I got to tell you, I've been very, it's rare every time that you go and talk to them, at very least, he sits down and he listens to what the locals are telling him and what's needed out there. So when he does talk about that, he's speaking the truth. Kevin's done a nice job up there.
It's funny you mention that, because while Kevin was talking, I was thinking the same thing, and I was going to say something, but it just wasn't,
Yeah.
the time wasn't
Yep.
right. But for the times that I had been on this board, I had seen such a change in the relationship between RISA and Algonac
Positive.
especially. But I'm sure it's all, of talking to other board members from other districts, it's the same thing for them too. They really are going out of their way to be helpful.
Yep.
And to.
They're listening.
For us to,
Yep.
whatever needs we might have, they are trying their best to
Absolutely.
accommodate it, you know?
Absolutely.
In the program, like cybersecurity,
Yeah.
they're going after.
Yeah.
The
Just-
DTE thing.
Now-
Just the stuff he's doing with the tech programs and really working hard on those.
Yep.
Two. It's nice. Yep.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Heather. Mr. Latos.
Yep, superintendents. Just winded up the general end of the year stuff, summer school. Melissa's been working hard to get that up and rolling. We sent letters out last week. We have 7 teachers inside, which is always great when you could get people that are used to working with your kids and, working with the Algonac group. 7 so far that are very interested in teaching, and that's right around the number that we generally look for, 7 or 8, depending on how many responses we get. At the suggestion of some of the teachers, after we evaluated the program last year, we went back to 4 days a week. We had knocked it down to 3 days, but they just felt that extra day a week was something that they could use, and we'd get a little bit more out of that program. So we're going to go back to 4 days a week. So we're ready to go with that. Another thing going in the summer, and this is pretty exciting, and I'm going to have them come and talk a little bit about it too. Kathy Tricomo and Katie Cornway, who are our intervention teachers over at Algonquin, have put together a summer reading program, and so they would love to talk to you about it. I promise you that. And they came to me and sat down, and so I listened, and then I had to pull the superintendent card at some point and say, okay, what do you want? What is this costing me? What do you want? And they said, oh no, we got this idea and this idea, but they've done so much to get. They've been out talking to the community, and their idea is they are going to have a bookmobile And the bookmobile will look a little bit like our maintenance van, not our maintenance van, but it's gonna look like our maintenance minivan, because it'll be that. But they have some good ideas on how they're gonna dress this thing up, and basically they have gone through and purchased library books, and they're gonna drive around the community to certain places and find kids that wanna read, and they're gonna have, they've got a system set up, they'll explain a lot better than I will, but they've got a system set up where they've got goals, which lead to prizes, which lead to all these things. They're gonna have reading nooks set up in different businesses, so if you go like to the doctor's office, you know, when you're waiting, there'll be a book nook there. Just all kind of different places that they're gonna be out and really trying to get kids excited about reading. And boy, their passion with it though. They were actually at the Algonquin Fair too, resource fair, and they were really, you know, pushing it and telling people, we'll find you where they're gonna be at. We'll be at the parks, we'll be here. So they'll be kind of like the ice cream man, but with books, apparently. So I'm gonna have them come down though and do a little bit of do a little presentation for you, because they're pretty excited about it.
I think they're looking for some guests to ride around on the bus too.
Yeah, I believe that they might be
Now,
recruiting, yeah.
That's what I heard.
Like fun.
A couple of dates to remember. June 25th, 6 o'clock is going to be our board workshop. I did speak with Bill Bonick. Bill had me send our goals and our mission statement that we had done years ago. So he's going to look at revamping those, the conversation that he'll want to have with the board about how's the community changing, what's the community look like now as compared to years ago when we did this, and what direction we want to go in. So
What time was that?
that's a 6 o'clocker, yep, June 25th.
And that's an official workshop, right? So anyone can come.
Correct,
Right.
yep, we'll have that posted. July 9th at 6 o'clock is going to be our second go-around with Neola. Wayne Wright did confirm with me that he can be out here for that. Jana has sections 1 and 3 that she gave you tonight. Those are the two that we'll look to knock out. 6 o'clock again. At the request of the board, I'll make sure that I have some food for us there, because that one got a little bit long last time, so I don't want you guys starving. Caffeine, sure, we'll do that. But again, July the 9th. The last thing tonight, I had sent in our last communication, with the scope of some of the projects that we're taking on, and that will be taken on for the course of years. We've just gotten to a point where having an architect or engineer to help with some of these things, well, in some cases it's required, but in other cases it's something that we just feel a lot more comfortable with. Obviously we have some, you know, when we do technology, Evan's got a good handle on that, but even all the projects going forward, when you're dealing with any kind of electronical wiring, any of those types of things, and you know, even like with this security grant, you know, I mean, it's just something where it's to have somebody else, another person looking at this and talking about the practicality of what you're putting in and just keeping you up to date on what's new and current. It's a project-based thing that I think we could use some help with. When we went to do the consolidation, if you recall, we worked with a group called IDI. They work very close with Chip Hendrick. Chip has a good comfort level with them. When they did it last time with us, I thought that they did a very good job. Not necessarily out looking to charge you for every single thing that you're doing, more based on the project and what it requires. And I don't know if we'll be in a position where we could buy a block of hours. Sometimes that's a possibility, but I would like to explore something with IDI. I certainly am not opposed to bringing in more groups. If that's something the board feels that you'd want to do, we can put out, you know, basically go through a bid process and have groups come out and present if you think that's something that you'd want to do. But like I said, I think it's going to be necessary for us moving forward that we have someone that we can get some information
Is
on, so.
there like, that's, that you're bringing in some thought leadership with them, or second set eyes, or a little bit of both?
Well, it's just, in a lot of cases, so the difference between Chip's a construction manager, so once we have things in place, Chip oversees that project. But the practicality of writing bids and getting to that point is really where the scope of some of this stuff would go to an engineer designer. And, like Evan and we were talking about, to help the geothermal here, putting a boiler on to heat the loop. And, that's just beyond the scope of our expertise
Sure,
at
yeah,
this point. I mean, there's only so much of that without having somebody come in and look at that design. So it just makes sense on ones that we feel we need some help on.
I agree,
Yeah,
yeah.
gotta be smart about it.
So I would, like I said, I'd like to move forward with talking to IDI and see if there is something that some kind of a workout, like I said, be it we buy a block hours or we do some kind of a by project thing. I don't know exactly how it worked, but with the board's blessing, I'd like to go ahead and investigate that a little bit, and certainly I'll send you the information along as I get it.
So does someone like IDI have, like, are they multidiscipline where they can have expertise talking geothermal and then talk door security and?
Yeah, I think, Ev, you've worked with them a little bit.
Yeah, like during the consolidation, they brought in an engineering company to look at the boiler side of things. So they're always, architects, and then you'll bring in mechanical engineers for those projects. They'll bring in an electrical engineer if we start getting into some heavy electrical work.
Okay,
And projects like a boiler have to have an architect stamp on it.
So one way or another, we're gonna
Makes sense.
need it anyway, yeah.
yep,
Anytime we can get second eyes and more ideas on how to do things, the better we're gonna be.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the last thing we wanna do is be spending money.
Yeah.
And 5 years later, be spending
I
money.
agree.
again. Fix
I
that.
agree, and sometimes you're tempted to, I know when we've started looking at some of these, there's times you're tempted to do it, not on the cheap, but you're tempted to say, well, we could allocate this money elsewhere, but at the same point, I know our area of expertise is not some of these things
It
that.
always has seemed to come back. and
Oh,
bite
it's a
us.
smart way to do it.
Yep.
Yep, yep.
Very good. And that's all I have?
I have a question for you.
Yep.
We had to make up a snow day, the
Yep.
day after Easter.
Yep.
And now the governor has signed where she's forgiven all the snow days. Do we reap any benefit by doing that? Or
No.
should we have waited and then we didn't have to deal with it, but it's like a toss-up?
Yeah, the
you know?
only thing, we could have probably stuck it out and kind of gambled that she was gonna get these days through. And I kind of felt like she would, but at the same point, I figured
just
the
never
worst
know.
case scenario was we went to school one more day, which, I thought it made sense at the time. The last thing anybody wanted to do was try to go into that following week, because we end on a Friday, to go on Monday, and even with some of the things that we had going with the roof starting right away after school, and this summer's gonna be one of those ones where the more time we have the building empty, the better we're gonna be.
Can we credit next year?
Yeah.
Sure, that's what the kids are saying.
Well, I told them the same thing. I said, you can go to sleep tonight knowing that you went to school more than anyone else in the county. They didn't seem as excited about that as I did, but
Did we
yeah.
have enough students
Yeah, oh, yeah.
for that day? that
Believe it or
we
not,
didn't have
attendance
to-
was very solid on
Was
that
it?
day. Yeah, we were
Okay.
not that far behind, so it was a good thing.
and at that time, it was not yet fully
No.
signed off, right?
No, they had a few things tied to that bill, and even to the point where I think maybe some people did start getting a little bit nervous, because they kind of, they'd be looking, there were some of the schools be looking at another week possibly. And there's still some out there that even with the forgiveness days, but in our county, everyone will be okay at this point, so.
Well, better to be safe
Yeah,
than sorry.
that was my thought.
Everyone.
Yep,
Right.
that's it.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Visitors and requests?
None.
None? All right. Action items, summer 2019 door security.
A motion that the Board of Education approve the recommendation to award the school door security technology bid to telecom technicians in the amount of $201,819.73.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any conversation?
You saw the breakdown of that. The difference in those bids was one of them had bid the outside doors and then came back and bid the inside doors, where Telecom had theirs entirely on one bid. So just so you know what the plan is it'll be the outside doors, it'll be the inside doors in the core classrooms here at the high school, and then each year, well, within the next few years, we will have all the buildings looking the same, working off of the same system. It's just kind of an expensive project that we had, with the grant from the state, $127,000, it really allowed us to knock out the majority of the rooms here at the high school as well for, dipping into the sinking fund, only about $70,000. So, but that'll be every year. And then we also have a plan with security cameras. There's a lot of parts to that, a lot of pieces to the security upgrades here in the schools, but knocking out a little bit at time is going to be, I think, a good way for us to attack that with some of the bigger projects we got to
So
take
that
up.
would be considered one of our highest priorities.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep, absolutely. And I think right now, when we talk to them, the suggestion from the companies was get yourself secured on the outside first.
Right.
And then start, doing some things inside.
Now, will
So
that be a keypad entry or a card entry?
it'll be a card reader, right, Ev?
Proximity card.
Yep. And that'll be the same at some point here. The idea will be the keys will not be needed for, and even for teachers getting into their classrooms. And with that, we have access, or we have the capability of giving teachers access to certain doors and certain locations in the, in terms of if they come in on a weekend, okay, you get into the main door and into your classroom, and just some of those kind of things, but we can control that. It's got some other features that are pretty neat too. They like an automatic, you can lock the building down with just, real quickly as well. There's just some really good features. Everything, we talked to them about the idea that we're not doing this all at one point. Are we going to be able to add on to this as we go? And they assured us the system you'll be able to continue to add on and just until you want to be done with it. So
Was that other security bid, that AOB, are they well-known? Do you know?
couldn't tell you on that. I just know that I know the two groups that we got there were, and I was a little bit surprised that we had two, only for the fact that when these grants went out there, I mean, we were getting bombarded by email after email because people knew that we got money and they read the paper, and we had all kind
Help
of
you spend it.
Yeah, they certainly wanted to. But we had a pre-bid meeting. Groups came out and talked a little bit about, they wanted to make sure that they understood what it was we were doing, so that helped us. And then, the final bids came in, and
Well, that AOB, their bid was so sloppily written. I was
Yeah.
amazed that you actually had a company that would put that out and sign it with their name, So that was my only reason for asking.
How long do you think it will take us to get the whole district?
It's when we get done with these roofs, now you're starting to talk about taking on projects that are, Evan's goal next year with the technology is to get the teacher workstations, with the new stuff, hopefully, get that rolling. My thought would be within the next, including this year, the next 2-3 years, if we could continue to knock out chunks of it each year, and that's kind of when we see, all right, what have we spent for the year? Do we have an extra $150,000 to put toward this, and we'll do the inside doors at Algonquin? And then, Evan's been looking at some cameras, so we get an idea of what ones we're ready to go wired up for cameras here at this building. Just a matter of getting them in there. Technology's come such a long way in that stuff with what we have available now. It'll be a long project in terms of getting everything organized. But I would say next 2 to 3 years, it's definitely one of our priorities. But like I
Because
said,
anything longer than that, I'd be worried that technology would change and all of a sudden, oh, wait a second, we gotta update this school before we can do the next school. I don't wanna be,
Safety aspect
yeah.
would even, be in
We're
front of
already in
that.
that.
Oh, yeah.
All the video surveillance in this the district already is 10 years old. That's typically how long a security camera And this is about 10 years long.
Yeah.
So everything that's here right now needs to be replaced,
Yeah.
plus any additional.
Yeah,
things that
I
need-
just didn't wanna see a
You're always
8-year
gonna play
plan.
catch up with technology. As soon as you buy it, there's something else out. So it's-
But I do think, like I said, I'm hoping, 3 years will be pretty much at the end of, with the exception of maybe ordering, getting a few cameras. in
Has
there.
there been any talk about giving Clay Township access to the cameras, just in case something happens?
They can get it in this new system I'm looking at, and it's very easy to give them access.
Okay.
Like, it's as simple as shooting them an email, they would have
Yeah.
access to our
Because
cameras.
if we have somebody
Yep.
in the building, they can talk to
Absolutely.
their people right away and say, hey, he's down this
Yep.
corridor, and
Yep, we did talk about that with them, and they do.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Now we've got a resolution for our RISA 2019 biennial election. This is, we had talked about Ray's our guy, right?
Yep. Ray, you're gonna go up there, they got the dates.
Cast the
later.
vote.
Yep.
Ray will represent us there.
Do we have a secondary?
I'll make,
We need-
who made it? Did somebody make the motion?
No.
No, we didn't
All
make
right,
it.
I'll make the motion, the board approves the resolution as presented designating Ray Pribiloff as the district's representative to serve on the 2019 electoral body responsible for electing members of the St. Clair County RISA Board of Education with, and who's our alternative?
When is it?
We need an alternative?
I can be an
Alternate?
alternate.
Okay, thank you. The board supports candidates Michael McCartan and Marshall Campbell for a term of 6 years. Complete copy of the resolution shall be attached to the original of the minutes.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any conversation? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Now we have our resolution for RISA budget. I make a motion that the Board of Education, having received and reviewed the proposed St. Clair County RISA budget for 2019-2020, adopts the resolution as presented, expressing its support of the proposed agenda. The complete resolution, copy of the resolution shall be attached to the original of these minutes.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any further conversation?
If you do, certainly go back and look, and you have some questions, feel free to shoot them to me. I'll get them along to Kevin, and he's real good about getting back, so he'll have a response for you.
Good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Resolution setting public hearing on 2019-2020 budget.
I make a motion, the Board of Education approves the resolution as presented, setting the date and time for the public hearing on the proposed 2019-20 budget for Monday, June 24, 2019 at 6:15 PM in the Algonac Junior Senior High School Library, with notice of the public hearing to be published as required by law.
And that's, of course, prior to the regular board meeting for that one.
Support?
Support.
Dorothy promises good news for us, so
I do.
Short and sweet.
All right.
I'll try.
It's been moved and supported. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Administrative contracts.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approves a 1-year extension of the current 2-year contracts for administrators Ryan Melrose, Brooke Lestage, Mitch Landrum, and Melissa Hanners for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any conversation? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Overnight trip request. I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approves the Algonac football team's overnight trip request to attend Camp Michindo from July 29th through August 1st, 2019. The cost of the camp will be covered by parents and fundraising. There will be no cost to the district.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any conversation? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes as well. At this time, I suggest a motion that the Board of Education go into closed session at 7:50 PM for the purpose of student reinstatement hearing and negotiation discussion.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any conversation? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. And after our closed session, we'll come back into open session to adjourn.